welcome everyone. And we will be holding a discussion for the next 1 hour on the topic of autonomous IT operations in hybrid IT environments using observability and AIOps. I hope over the next 1 hour, we have a great, engaging, and fantastic discussion so that when you go back, you will have a lot of takeaways to take with you. But before I introduce our panelists, I just want to take a minute or so to set the context of what we will be discussing today. We all know that there are a growing number of organizations shifting to a hybrid environment, and yours also must be one such environment. So what happens is that the IT tools sprawl, the shadow IT, the lack of complete visibility, performance bottlenecks, and inefficient resolution management are among the many challenges that this brings about, which leads to a rise in both the cost and the complexity of managing the IT operations. So full stack observability has proven to be useful to drive this visibility and insights across the entire stack. And when this is combined with AI ops, the AI ML powered recommendations can help drive continuous optimizations, automations, and if an issue happens, then drive root cause assistance and mediations. Now, while AI ML models have demonstrated success in predicting system failures, preventing security breaches, and identifying performance bottlenecks, generative AI capabilities can be harnessed to improve productivity and manage resolutions better. And later today, we will also be talking about how GenAI takes the capabilities to the next level. So let's dive into the discussion where we will be exploring leveraging advanced technologies such as GenAI, AIOps, and hyperautomation to streamline processes, achieve scalability, enhance security, and optimize on-prem and cloud infrastructure. We will also look at the difference between cloud-based and self-hosted observability solutions, AI ops, what Gen AI can do for improving your IT ops, hyperautomation, etc. So with that, I have the pleasure of introducing our panelists. Please join me in welcoming Gaurav Duggal, who is the CIO of Reliance Jio Infocom Limited. Rushikant Shastri, who is the President Technology for State Bank of India. Yagnesh Parekh, who is the CIO of Trust Capital. And Neeraj Kumar, Director of Solutions Engineering APJ and GSI at SolarWinds. Welcome, panelists, and I would request all of you to join in welcoming our panelists. Before I get into the discussion, I have a few reminders to give you. While we are having the discussion, you can drop in your questions in the Q&A section, which is there at the bottom of your screen. I would request all of you to take out time, whatever insights that you're getting. You might have some questions you might want more details out of those insights. So you can just drop in the questions. And towards the end of the webinar, we will be putting up these questions to our panelists to answer. So don't forget to do that. Okay, so with that, I would like to invite Neeraj. Neeraj, if you can give your opening remarks for a minute or two before we get into the discussion mode.
Yeah, thanks, Sukha, and welcome everybody to this webinar. I'll just like to start by basically introducing SolarWinds as a company. Now, most of IT professionals know SolarWinds as a provider of a simple, powerful, secure, at the same time, cost-effective IT management and observability solution. And we have been providing this solution for last 25 years. I mean, we came into existence way back in 1999. And this year, actually, we are completing 25 years and we are celebrating our 25 years anniversary, actually. We obviously focus on supporting all sizes of businesses, right from enterprise customers to mid-market, small customers and all, to manage, optimize, and operate their complex hybrid IT environments. In APJ, obviously, we are expanding pretty heavily. We continue to expand the business. And also in India, we are heavily investing. So excited to have all of you today and looking forward to the discussion. Yep.
Great. Thank you, Neeraj, for that quick remark So you spoke about the complexity of today's environment. So let me start with that aspect in today's discussion. So I'll go to the CIOs first. Let's hear from them. What are their challenges and how they're addressing those? And then Neeraj, I would like you to comment on what they have said. So before we start, I've already introduced the panelists. So Gaurav, maybe we can start with you. And my first question is, how are you currently enabling visibility of the full stack across your hybrid IT environment? And where do you see the gaps currently in that hybrid IT setup?
Thanks, Yupra. Thanks for providing this opportunity to talk about how Geo at its scale is supporting hybrid IT environments. So we have a huge observability stack, and some of it is also powered by SolarWinds. We have a scale, if you know, one of the largest cloud infrastructure. We have a hybrid approach of hyperscaler versus on-prem solutions. We leverage AI for all the operations. We do a proactive network management to predict and resolve issues. We have MTTR and MTTD being traced, and we help improve service availability and user satisfaction. So we have a huge AI-based operations, which we usually use to find the needle in haystack. So that's all about what we do. In generally, for applications, we have application performance monitoring systems, which looks at all the uptime and customer satisfaction. We have security information event management, which analyze and correlate data from previous network devices, security applications, endpoints. We have cloud native visibilities as well as on-prem visibilities. Currently, the gaps, if you ask me, sometimes it's more from the data is in silos, right? So we although have unified tools, but we still find that because Geo is huge, there are data which are running in silos. How can we combine? How can we slice and dice? And how can we seamlessly have data between cloud, on-prem? These are the challenges we have. So because they are in silos, sometimes the real-time insights become a challenge for us, right? If it can be unified data across application, across network, across clouds, we can do a much better job in real-time insights. Although the real-time insights for a certain application, for certain monitoring is available, but a combined unified view is hard, right? Now, monitoring is also costly. You need to have so many observability platforms running, applications, networks, clouds, et cetera, et cetera. So we also look at cost-effective measurements to do these monitorings and build a single framework across board. But again, Geo being Geo, it's so large, it's very hard for us to have that. So there's a lot of duplications in observability stack as well. Since we are managing hybrid, that means on cloud, on-prem, different applications, networks, et cetera, et cetera. There's a large complexity in the setups as well. It's not just about cost, but there's a huge complexity of managing all these observability stack. And then we have compliance, which needs to be maintained. We are a TRAI regulated, telecom regulated authority looking at it. We have applications which are also monitored by different departments. So compliance and security is very, very important for us. So overall, I believe these are the challenges. Although we are doing a good job of the problem at hand, but at the scale of Geo, which is, I would say, a population scale problem with 450 or 500 million users. And for all our applications are hugely being used, GeoMart, MyGeo. So these are the challenges we still have to solve.
Thanks, Gaurav, for sharing those insights. And it's really hearty to see how you are leveraging AI extensively within your observability stack. Can you tell us a little bit, since you're already quite ahead in this journey, how are you looking at generative AI going forward, and how are you looking at hyper automation within your stack?
So thanks. This is a wonderful question, because this is something which me especially has been deliberating for quite some time with generative AI upon us. We have deployed a lot of agentic workflows. So there is a team which works along with me very closely, and we basically look at what's happening in the world and try to figure out. We have applied a lot of patents also on it. So deployed agentic workflows for us to do stuff. Like for an example, if I talk about applications, there's a lot of automated code generation which we do right now. I believe last I checked, more than 20% of code is automatically generated using an AI agentic workflow. Obviously, it doesn't mean that we replace anything, but it just enhances and empowers our development lifecycle. It makes us more predictive. Code reviews are automated using, again, AI agentic workflows. Small changes in UI, small changes on server are all done by AI agentic workflows. So this is with respect to application using generative AI. Now we have proactive prediction and self-healing networks. We have predictive maintenance. We have anomaly detections using AI. All of it we currently do using generative AI. So especially looking at the infrastructure point of view. So we have self-healing infrastructure, right? We have algorithms that can automatically take corrective actions. Like if you have to restart a service, scale a service, right? We don't need a human to do it. It automatically figures out using predictive that we need to, this is going to go out of our bond. So we need to do something. So one of the things which my team does is it empowers all the engagement on JioCinema. Now, JioCinema has the largest amount of viewers during IPL. Now that happens, or let's say Big Boss, which is right now running, which is again will have voting lines open for 10 seconds or 20 seconds or a minute. We'll have to still cater to that kind of a burst of traffic. And AI definitely helps us. Humans will take a blink of an eye, but AI will do it in microseconds. A blink of an eye is still a second, right? So that's where AI comes in. For hyper automation on IT operations, like you asked, we have a workflow automation which is already in place, again using AI agentic workflows. We have patch managements, user provisioning, compliance reporting. We have event correlation and noise reductions, where we use a lot of monitoring system, reducing the noises, right? So that's where we use hyper automation. Again, all AI agentic workflows. Earlier, it was normal workflows, but now everywhere we have AI agents who can decide on it. Not a human needs to sit on top of a dashboard and decide on something, right? Even the threat detection, security measures, all of it, we use ML and AI algorithms to analyze the patterns and automate the resources and applications and etc. So these are the things we do. So if I summarize, we have key enablers like generative AI models for automating stuff. We have frameworks like TensorFlow and ML services. We have observability and monitoring platforms, automation platforms. We also have data pipelines for ETL. So overall, these are the key enablers for us.
Great. Thanks, Gaurav, for sharing those details with us. So from what I understand, the different industries and different companies are in different stages of the maturity curve when it comes to AI ops and automation and hyper automation. And of course, an industry like BFSI which is also highly regulated, has to drive a balance between the adoption of the latest technologies as well as taking care of the compliance and regulatory issues. So if from that perspective, Rushikant, if you can tell us about how you see the visibility of the full stack across your IT environment. And while banks and especially PSU banks were behind when it came to using cloud because of certain reliance, certain regulatory issues, but now we are seeing a lot of banks also going for hybrid IT environment. So how are you enabling that visibility, and where do you see the gaps, and how do you see technologies such as AIOps, GenAI, and hyper automation helping you with that visibility and enhancing security and proactive prediction and remediation?
Yeah, quite a long question rather. First of all, thank you everyone. It is a prestigious to be, associated with such a prestigious panel actually. Like to just correct a little bit, it's not just public sector banks, it's all the banks. Just because of regulator constantly, they were not supposed to adopt the cloud till now. Of course, we have been moving certain loads to hybrid, private, public, depending upon your sensitivity, criticality, and as per guidelines as prescribed by the RBI. So that's not actually confined only for public sector bank. It is applicable for all the banks across the country. When it comes to the technology stack within the BFSI, I don't think it's going to happen under one umbrella. It's very difficult. So rather, to keep it very simple, ideally BFSI point of view, it's been bifurcated application-wise. So when you say application-wise, first and foremost, let's keep core banking as one application, mobility maybe another application. Then you keep it some sort of account aggregation, or maybe some sort of other ATMs and other channel transactions. So ideally BFSI is like, you can say, divided into small segments of application. Everything under one roof, I think it's way far to go ahead. It's not yet possible actually, because it's been scattered and it's too complicated to visualize under one roof. Okay, so bifurcate into application. Within this application, you have to again have sub bifurcation. That's because we are confined to observability now and AIOps kind of stuff. So say for example, now let's take example of core banking or internet banking. Within this application, again, there will be sub-segment. You need to have something at network layer, you need to have something at application layer, and you need to do something at database layer. And then you try to have the holistic view within that specified application. That's how it works actually. That's how practically it works across the BFSI. Now again, I'm not supposed to, my compliance doesn't allow me to speak for my bank, so I'll try to put it generic only. Okay, but then more or less it happens this way. Now how to achieve? First and foremost, so over here there are two simple things. First and foremost, you need to have that multifaceted approach, number one. And number two, you need to strike a right balance between the tools, your processes, and your strategies. So these are like two theoretical stuff you have to follow. You have to bombard in your framework. You're able to achieve that observability. Okay, how we are doing it? So there is something called, now these days, again, we're not supposed to name or quote a vendor or solutions available, but then there are something called centralized management, monitoring and management platforms. Now this is applicable at all levels, network, application, database. There is something called, these days they call it as automated discovery and configure management tool. So wherein any detection or any changes in your IT infra is easily detectable. Earlier it was like, it's a manual activity. If something goes wrong, you have to manually update, you have to trigger, then you have to inform all the stakeholders. So these days these tools are available, like automated discovery and configure management, with any changes within that application. Again, if something has changed in INB application, that tool will not trigger to CBS. Still that manual intervention is required. So now I will answer your third question while answering the second question itself, that this is the first challenge. How to achieve interoperability within the same ecosystem. Still, this is the manual intervention required. If something is happening or some changes is happening in application A, still application B, the triggering is somehow not helping. Maybe EOD or batch-wise process is working, but real time, it's a little difficult, or you can say it's not happening. Number two, there is something called version control systems. So version control tools are also available. So far, version control was applicable only till code or maybe, source code kind of stuff. But now this has been extended to our IT assets also, IT infra also. So I guess with these three centralized monitoring across the application, automation, recovery, version control, I guess even if you have these three and you have the processes in place, now these three, like these are like tools. It's a combination of tools and processes, right? And if you have these three things in place, I think your observability part or your change management part within your IT infra and IT asset will take care. Okay, you need not do any fancy thing and you need not complicate the things. Okay, how we are doing it, how it's going actually is being executed, I'll take little later. First of all, like to take the challenges. First challenge, I guess I've already taken care of. Being a vast organization, a complete holistic view of entire stack, little difficult to achieve. Difficult to achieve in the sense there is something called vendor lock-in at each application also. So getting to all the vendors, say for example I'm having vendor A for CBS, vendor B for internet banking, vendor C for video KYC. It's very difficult to get all three players under one roof because all of them have the equal their own capability. So getting everyone under one roof itself is a difficult, and then again achieving the compatibility for all the solutions, all the tools, and getting the synergies out of it, second challenge. Third is something, now this is applicable for large organization or old organizations, legacy organization, wherein, IT infra, what you're talking about, it is either transform at this stage, it is getting modernized, or still it is at the old stack. Now achieving that adaptability or compatibility, or again you can say interoperability, is little difficult because each and every application or infra at is different maturity stage, different transform stage. Okay, say for example, if I have transformed something in the year 2019, till the time I achieve the application to it becomes little obsolete because the way technology is being changing in the faster rate. I think it's very difficult to be in sync. So getting, that's a second challenge now. So ideally getting all the sync, all the applications within your organization in a sync at a time, really difficult. Really difficult in the sense, say for example, if I am using application A or a tool 1, their patching or their upgradation is happening once in a quarter, and the application to a tool, their upgradation happening once in a month. So it's very difficult to achieve that sync. And trust me, you won't be getting any single vendor or single solution provider who is going to provide you the entire stack. No, it's not available. They are having good within their equality, within their vicinity, they have their capability, and we want, because if you want to take best out of the technology, then you have to go with the specialization. If you want to go into specialization, then these bits and pieces comes into picture. So getting that holistic view, that's the reason it's not able to coming out, because we are not going with single stack. It's always in a bits and pieces. And why it's in bits and pieces? We don't want to get confined to a vendor lock-in or single vendor number one, and it get to capability or specialization of that particular vendor or particular solution. It's always better to have that multi-vendor ecosystem. Now, so far we have discussed about the tools, process, and applications. Now we'll say something about the cloud or on-prem. Now that's a different topic. Still now, even our core applications across the country is been on-prem only. You talk it public sector, private, cooperative, even smaller banks, they're not supposed to take it in the cloud. There are certain peripheral applications, like say for example, video KYC. Now RBI is allowed to do me video KYC piece in the cloud, or maybe CRM, some sort of analytics, some sort of fraud detection, some sort of underwriting process. These are application in bits and pieces which I'm supposed to do in the cloud. It can be any cloud, private, public, and hybrid. But trust me, when it comes to the BFSI and kind of hyperscalers and hypervisor available in the market, it's hardly any difference. Because if I introduce those same hyperscaler and hypervisor in my on-prem also, I think there's hardly any differentiation between the cloud exposure or on-prem exposure. So slowly and steadily, this cloud piece, at least for BFSI, is getting little redundant. Maybe going forward, once RBI come up with that, even your core applications can also be taken up in the cloud, then maybe multi-cloud and other facet will come into picture. But right now, this, I don't think that is coming into the second aspect to the adoption of cloud within this space is like, so certain solutions are cloud native. I don't have any option. I have to migrate to cloud, So now that depends which cloud that solution is, because someone may comfortable with Azure, someone may compatible with AWS, so someone will, there are three basic cloud providers only: Google Cloud, Azure, and your Amazon of the world only. So in that case, it's up to you choose. When it comes to the capability and features, hardly anything to differentiation. So only thing which is a differentiation parameter is like integration, how quickly it can be integrated to your ecosystem. Why your ecosystem? It's not about just application who is going to be hosted in the cloud. No, because as I told you, the applications, the example which I've given you, these are like byproduct or sub product. at the end of the day, it has to hit the CBS, and CBSs will be always hosted in the on-prem. So ease of integration becomes a very key. It has to be at the end of the day, termination and origination has to happen from CBS only. Okay, so that integration piece is very important. Trust the capability or development is not taking the much of the time, at least in the BFSI change management stuff. Integration is the thing which is going to take a lot of time. At times, you have to dilute certain things, and integration is not just plug and play. When you do the integration activity, your compliance, your security, your audit, a lot of other people also comes into picture. And if they started giving the observations, trust me, then it is as good as you should host it in on-prem only. Okay, so this is the second challenge: how to achieve that integration, or how to get rid of that integration. Again, integration is not between the two systems. Integration is between the multi applications, multi premises, and within that, now we call it as, just because if I want to do the handshake within my system, I have to have the orchestration of the world. Orchestration in the sense, it can be orchestration of APIs, it can be orchestration of buses, it can be anything. Achieving the interoperability within that facet is also another challenge. Okay, now what I was trying to convey here is like a practical challenges, practical aspects. To keep it or to summarize the stuff, whole view stack in BFSI difficult to achieve, but within application, most of the banks, most of the BFSI institutions are doing at different levels. So they have a different monitoring for networking, they have a different monitoring at the application, and they have a different monitoring at the database. So at the most, I can club certain nodes, certain traffic end to end, maybe mobility. So if someone is doing through mobile banking or something like that, if I want to track a transaction right from network to database, I can do that. But then for that particular application, not for that particular infra or for a particular ecosystem, that can be done. So there is a huge scope of improvement going forward also, and slowly and steady, with the help of technology, with the help of regulator, because it's a regular entity, regular ecosystem, I guess going forward, with the help of stakeholders also, there is a huge scope, at least in the BFSI, within the space or within the topic which we are going to get.
Thank you so much, Rishikant. I'm going to park the AI ops question and GenAI later because it's very interesting. I've heard two point of views on the kind of challenges and gaps which exist. So I would like Neeraj to address the challenges first and then come to the GenAI part. So Yagnesh, I would love to hear from you again from the financial services perspective. Where do you see currently the gaps are in enabling visibility of the full stack across the hybrid IT environment and the gap? So, I would like to hear from you from the challenges perspective so that then I can get Neeraj to address all these different challenges that have been spoken about.
Thanks, Sipra, and good afternoon to everyone. So about observability, I will put it in the two part. One, we are in the broking and fixed income business. Now, broking is a completely different nature of business, where the complexity is very high and also the low latency requirement is too high. So, and the sensitivity of application uptime and response time is too high. So in that case, the observability is extremely critical for us from the customer experience perspective. And this thing. So what happened is that we are trying to get best solution, okay, which help us in monitoring and log management solution to keep track of observability for the complete our environment. So we collect the various logs, metrics, traces to ensure that we get reasonably good observability in our own environment. Now, as earlier our speaker has already said, our core application is still on-prem, but other applications, we are very selective in moving to the cloud. So we are not following cloud first approach, frankly speaking, but we are following a right cloud approach, in the sense that we look at it, which is the right application to move to cloud, where the applications which require elasticity very high, or if the cloud native requirement is there, then we prefer to move it to the cloud. Okay. Now, about in the hybrid environment, the monitoring system is quite complex. Okay, and hence there are gaps available, technological as well as a resource related. So we are observing one application observability separately we are doing, and infrastructure and resource observability we do separately. I do agree that currently we don't have a good mature solution at present. At least we have not experienced it. And we are constantly improving with a vendor to keep on upgrading so that we get a mature solutions on that thing. And about AI ML, yes, we are using it for various risk management, fraud management, and also we use using some AI ML in observability itself, where certain triggers we have defined it with putting some tweak in the coding and all that, and that help us in giving uh, the solution faster, identifying the issue and giving the solution faster. So that type of AI ML and automation, to some extent we use it, though we are not gone for hyper automation. We are going slowly, and we need to experience how it happens. And as the modules keep on maturing it, we'll keep on upgrading our observability stack on app as well as infrastructure side both.
Thank you so much. So, Neeraj, you have heard from three CIOs in terms of where they are in what is their strength when it comes to the visibility into their hybrid IT environment, as well as where the gaps are. So, one is if you would like to address some of these gaps and challenges that were mentioned by the other panelists. Also, how we are looking, they're looking forward to leveraging AI ML to address some of these gaps, to predict system failures, prevent security breaches, and identifying the performance bottlenecks. So, what do you think is contributing to this uptake in AI ops adoption?
Yeah, definitely. And this is a great perspective and discussion so far to understand a lot of insights and all. And if I kind of try to summarize the discussions, if you look at it, I mean, the environment is getting more and more complex, correct? That's what we see. I mean, you have workloads running in data centers, you have private clouds, public clouds, you have some cloud native applications which can only be cloud native, correct? You have every organization is trying to leverage this whole set of data to launch these new engagements, new channels of engagements for customers, new business initiatives, innovations, and all of those things and all, correct? Everybody has started adopting AI and ML and all these machine learning models and all, and a lot of those things are possible on cloud where those AI algorithms are provided and LLMs are provided and all of those things are all correct. So environment is actually getting more and more hybrid, more and more complex now, correct? Now, if you look at from an IT operations and IT management perspective, I mean, the problem what we are trying to solve is, I mean, if there are issues, how quickly we can detect that, correct? And how we can solve the mean time to detect problem, how quickly we can detect issues. And once we detect issues, then how quickly we can resolve that issues, correct? So ultimately, we are going to solve the mean time to detect and mean time to repair and resolve the issues, correct? But also, I think as Gaurav also pointed out, I mean, a lot of things is also moving to proactive. How can I be more proactive and preventive? And how can I kind of continuously optimize, self-heal before things go wrong? I know things before it's supposed to go wrong so that I can take those actions and remediations and optimizations actions beforehand so that it gets fixed and the problem doesn't happen or the user doesn't get impacted, correct? So that predictive, predict and optimize part is also very important, correct? Now, if you look at it, I mean, just to summarize the problems, and if I can, maybe I can put those problems into maybe 4 and 5 buckets, correct? So one is obviously, if you look at it, there is so much technology, and every bit of technology gets its own visibility and monitoring solution and all, correct? So let's use cloud, get one tool to monitor cloud and get the visibility out of it. So every new technology comes up with its own bit of solution for monitoring and visibilities and all. So we have too much tool sprawl, I would say. So many things where data is getting collected. We also have data sprawl, I would say, where so much data is getting collected without any context and correlated views and all. And if you get those siloed data from various sources and all is difficult to understand and get insights out of it, correct? So we need those data obviously to do data-driven decisions, and we need obviously a good data to run those AI ML algorithms also on top of it to understand insights. But all of data has to be kind of a collated, contextualized so that it makes sense, correct? And then if you look at the third thing, I mean, there are places which we also see where we don't have data, correct? We are dealing with unknowns, okay, where we have some sort of a visibility gaps and challenges where we are not collecting those data from these, like, obviously, if you see apps moving to those microservices, containers architecture, new age apps getting developed, networks getting software defined, infrastructure is getting more and more hybrid and complicated. Everything is getting software defined and all. And a lot of places we see organizations don't have those data to collect and get visibility out of it, correct? I mean, earlier case, it was very easy. We know what to monitor and we know what can go wrong. So we are basically collecting all those data and taking actions of that. But in a lot of these new age technologies, we don't know what potentially can go wrong, or so we don't know also what to monitor. So let's collect each and every data out of all of those things and all, right? If you look at the fourth thing I would say is obviously the skill gap also, I would say. One is, I mean, you are either getting too much data, which is flooding the operations team, which is the noise and all of those things. What is basically the relevant data or what is noise? It's also critical to figure out, which is how we can do correlation, alert separation, how we can get to the actionable part and all of those things and all. And also skill gap in the sense that a lot of times issues are there and we don't have people who can fix up those issues and all, correct? Or we don't have the expertise available who can make sense out of the issue and fix up that problem, correct? And then one final thing is also, I mean, especially every organization is dealing with the cost and resource constraints, budget constraints, and all of those things. And you are obviously challenged to do more with less, correct? So one thing which also needs that, whether even from IT operations and a management perspective and environment perspective, should I optimize my IT for experience or should I optimize for cost, correct? I mean, should I over provision and so that experience is good, user experience is good, or should I under provision, save cost and run a risk of kind of a regulatory issues or legal issues and all, because I'm not meeting the SLAs or users are not satisfied and all, correct? So there has to be a balance between both of these aspects, actually, correct? So this is yeah. So most of the problems, I think, comes under these 5 buckets which I mentioned, correct? Now, what is required to solve a problem? That was your second part of the question. If I can add, obviously, you obviously have all these entities. You have your servers, you have your containers, you have your microservices, you have your clouds, you have your virtualization layers, you have your networks, you also need to collect security data across all of these things, because security threat is also making more and more sophisticated and all of those things, correct? So you need to collect data across all of these entities, right? From user to application to network to infra to security and all of those things, correct? So you obviously need some sort of a full stack observability layer which can collect data across each of these technologies. And in observability, it's actually called melt data, which is metrics, events, logs, and traces, which I think was highlighted earlier also. And on top of melt data, you also need to collect the user experience data, how users are using the applications or what is the experience or the behavior they are doing, so that you can also understand that in context of the infra, application, network, and data and all, correct? And then there is so much data going to be, I mean, it's impossible for humans to analyze their data. So you obviously need that AI and machine learning layer. That is basically the AI operations layer or AIOps engine kind of a thing, which analyzes all those data, comes up with insights which can be used to optimize and continuously optimize and remediate things and all. So if there are issues, it remediates. You can use those insights to remediate. Or you can proactively understand anomalies, understand optimization candidates, do the recommendations across your databases, applications, infra, and all, what needs to be scaled up, what needs to be scaled down. So you need the AI to give all those insights and recommendations, which can be used to optimize, automate, or if issues are there, you basically drive the incident management process and the remediation process, correct?
So
obviously,
before Neeraj, before you go ahead, so the challenges that were spoken about and gap areas that were spoken about. So you're saying that AI ops and hyper automation can address these gaps and challenges.
that's correct. Yeah. So if you look at it, obviously the AI ops is all about you obviously need observability because you need the data. Then only the AI engine can run on that data. So you need first the observability layer. You need the AI ops engine, and then obviously you have the automation layer which sits on top of it. And below that, I mean, there will obviously be a process layer, which is what we call as the IT service management, which manages our incident, change, problem management processes and all. But obviously, you need an automation layer which looks at those issues and drives that automations and continuous optimizations and orchestrate those things across various underlying entities. So that's the automation or hyper automation layer, which does that orchestration and automation layer, correct? And obviously, side by side, you have the service management layer, which drives the IT service management processes and change management processes and all of those things and all. So that's where these things are required.
And are there any visibility challenges that inhibit AI ops adoption?
Yes, so the challenges are basically the challenges which I mentioned earlier. I mean, if I put bucket those challenges, obviously those are I would say tool sprawl, data sprawl, visibility gaps, unknowns. You want to reduce the alert noise, too many alerts, or there's a skill gap who don't know what to solve the problems. There is obviously either you optimize for performance or optimize for cost. And obviously you are, I mean, whenever I talk to customers and something very interesting was brought about the people, process, and technology piece, correct? So the solution is not a challenge, but actually the people becomes a challenge. I mean, is it a people problem? Like when an issue happens, I mean, whom do you get in the room to fix up that issues? And if you can get to that level, I mean, whether you get a server guy, database guy, network guy, app guy, or you get the right guy who needs to solve that problem because that's the root cause, correct? So that's the challenge. It's actually not a tool or a process issue. It actually becomes a people issue and people get frustrated in operations. Nobody today wants to work in operations because it's a war room kind of a scenarios in every organization where biggest challenge is that you get to a war room and everybody is like trying to prove, oh, my things are, everything is fine, correct? It's like proving what I call as a mean time to innocence. How quickly I can prove myself innocence rather than I focus on solving the mean time to detect and mean time to remediate problems. So that's where the visibility and the AIOps should actually play a bigger role.
Yeah. So definitely we see people and resource constraint as one of the biggest challenges. I want to come back to the tool part now. Gaurav, if you can take a go at it first, how do you determine whether to go with cloud-based or self-hosted observability solution? And what factors do you consider when it comes to balancing flexibility, control, security, and scalability between the cloud-based and self-hosted observability solutions in a hybrid environment?
I think great question. Most of, again, it depends on what we are looking at in terms of burst of traffic. Most of our tools, as I said, it's hybrid. That means wherever there is high governance compliance required, like telecom, it'll always be on-prem, right? But we know there's we are not going to be impacted with burst of traffic. But for an example, if a case of GeoCinema, which is on high burst traffic, let's say there's a voting line going to open for Big Boss, we will have to have an hyperscaler in between for me to host it so that whenever the burst of traffic comes for 10 seconds, 20 seconds, a minute or 2 minutes, or if it's an IPL, if it comes for, let's say if Dhoni comes on screens, right? You all know that it goes to 50 crore watching or something like that, which is unheard of for that 2 minutes, 5 minutes, or half an hour whenever he bats. So that is that we don't that we would like to run it on a hyperscaler for that duration. So these are the things we look for, what kind of traffic we are going to cater to. And based on that, we do cost optimization. We all know hyperscaler comes with their own cost. and on-prem comes with lower cost, but then it has its own management challenges. If we have a consistent data coming in, and if you need data, we know the users, how they are going to interact with us. We will have pretty much known traffic. Then we will have our own on-prem solutions for us to manage it. But if we have an unknown territory and there's a burst of traffic which is going to come in, then we will use an hyperscaler. Now, this is based on how do we manage cost, and second part is okay. So observability solution, I believe we host everywhere. It's like wherever our traffic is, there is an observability solution. That's a given. And as I think Neeraj said, there is a lot in observability solution. It's not about we need to monitor network, we need to monitor users, we need to monitor user behaviors, we need to monitor a lot of things. We need to monitor security, we need to, like you said, melt, right? So we need to monitor everything. We monitor each and everything. We just not that we need to only look at if the application performance is good. We need to look at network performance. We need to look at the time to respond.
Okay.
So there's a lot. So we have monitoring solutions at both places. So basically, but then as I said, we host so many different applications, so many different networks, that for us to get a unified view has been always a challenge, and it will continue to be a challenge whatever we do, because the growth, it's like a chicken and egg situation. The growth of our traffic, the growth of our company, the growth of number of applications we support, the number of things we are going to do will always keep increasing, and observability stack will always have to catch up and figure out what we can do with a unified view. And we take usage of all different kinds of AI algorithms, whatever is available to us. But we also use SolarWinds in our frameworks, especially for the application monitoring and network monitoring cases. But we use everything and anything for us to ensure the kind of traffic we have, and we are hybrid, both on-prem and both on a hyperscaler.
Right.
And we use all hyperscalers. We don't just stick to Microsoft, Google. We have every kind of hyperscaler in our platform.
Right. Rushikant, you mentioned that the core applications and the core is still on-prem, and you have the peripheral ones on cloud. So in your kind of situation, what factors do you consider when choosing between a cloud-based and self-hosted observability solution in your kind of environment?
Actually, that is again a use case basis. It's not ideally a choice or a parameter. So for example, if I want to implement observability monitoring solution here for core banking application, it has to be on-prem. There is no choice. There is no point in keeping that application in the cloud, because none of the data will be able to feed it over there. So if the source is not there, what kind of things I'm going to observe? Okay. And this just, if you want to keep it little in a simplified manner, for the transformation journeys or for the latest addition to the banking, these days you get it cloud native. So over there, it's about which cloud provider or which hyperscaler you want to add on, because that's is given that I have to go or I have to get it done in cloud only, because this is not available. Otherwise, I have to step back and use the other older technology, older provider, and do the customization. So it's option that if it is something is cloud native, I have to adopt it in the cloud. The question here, if it's something is already running in on-prem and if I want to migrate in the cloud, what are the things I consider? What are the aspect which I consider? That's again the depends upon your migration plan. There is something called migration checklist in place, and basis the migration checklist or the weightage of the migration checklist, I guess the decision has been taken that these are the assets which can be moved. This is the downtime. These are the milestone basis. And again, that has been divided into three aspects: how quickly I'm able to integrate, how it will be efficient, how it will be scalable, and of course, last but not the least, it has cost effective also. At the end of the day, there is no point in just moving for the sake of moving in the cloud. It has to be effective in the cost manner also. But then it's not with the choices. It's first and foremost basis use cases, number one. And number two, if at all there is something which is in on-prem, and if I want to move within the vicinity of regulator guidelines, then there is a checklist in place, and it checklist contains all the parameters with certain weightage associated with that. And basis that scorecard, basis that matrix, the application is moved. Once application is moved, then of course the solution will be applicable there only. So for example, I have application in the cloud, definitely my observability solution will be also in the cloud. Now the challenge comes, now that's again a challenging part, that say for example, any use case which has 50% presence in on-prem and 50% presence in cloud. I have one observability solution in on-prem, another observability solution in the cloud. Somehow, if I want to have the holistic observability, I need to have the third tool in place. And that third tool comprise of certain feed from the cloud observability, certain feed from the on-prem observability. And then on top of that, it's not about observability. This just when you say observability, I want resiliency also. That it's not about if I can predict in advance, nothing like that. But then I have to be readiness for proactiveness, respond and recover also. That is all about resilience, and that is applicable for your operational functionality also and security aspect also, right? Resilience is ideally this BFSI use for operations activity and security aspects. So how to achieve that resiliency for that hybrid ecosystem remains the challenge, because I've given you the example. I have to take certain feed from the one environment, another feed from the second environment, and then I have to collect that and I have to get best out of it. Because again, getting the sync all three, it's little bit difficult. And especially because let's take an example of security, wherein I require all the stuff real time or maybe near real time. And during incident itself, getting or assuming that everything will be in an ideal scenario will not be a case. Then it is like, there is no point in having that specialized observability for sake of having it. So that remains the challenge. And I guess going forward, maybe if again, because that third solution required certain PI data, certain sorts of data, which I'm not able to host in the cloud. So that has to be in the on-prem only. So over here, maybe regulatory intervention may be needed, where certain PI data, if I'm supposed to take in the cloud, then that third piece can be avoided. And then I have one feed from on-prem to the cloud, and within the cloud observability solutions only I can get the insights or synergies out of it. Otherwise, if I subtract or discount the third case, the rest of the cases for the observability solutions on-prem, it is working good. For the only cloud, it is working good. The only challenge is in the hybrid environment, wherein I'm not able to get the best out of it. Regarding the observability, as mentioned by Mr. Gaurav, this has been applicable. In fact, these days, whenever you come up with any applications, any new use cases, observability is a part of that only. So it cannot be completed. Your SDLC won't be completed at all. It's a part of package, you can say. It's part of your suite. It's a different story. How best you can get out of it, that's a different altogether stuff. But as of now, it is a part of your complete bouquet of services, wherein you have to be with your observability solution.
Yeah. So in the interest of time, I would just request that all the panelists to now keep their answers brief so that we can cover as much ground as possible. So Yagnesh, what about you? How do you determine between going for a cloud-based observability solution versus a self-hosted observability solution?
We are a highly regulated entity, and our core application is still on the on-prem available. Okay, so for that we have observability on-prem available and is working fine, not facing an issue. But applications which we have hosted on cloud, like for application require LHT and cloud native requirement, at present we have on a cloud also. Okay, now the concerns to decide whether on-prem or in a hybrid environment, when we need to consolidate data and do observability on-prem, our main, it is, while it is very good for a cloud-based solution which offers a ease of use on the cloud and all that, but bigger concern is on vendor lock-in, and we have concern about loss of control on our security of our data and all that, because when regulatory comes, the data should be available when SEBI and other audit comes, and that data should be available on-prem for instant analytics and for the audit purpose and all that. So currently we have both the places available, but decision criteria is based on the lock-in period of the vendor and data security concern available. Based on that, we take a decision. We are working on for a consolidated observability solution at present.
Right, right. Thanks. So, Neeraj, very quickly, what security and other considerations should the CIOs look into before considering any observability and AI ops solutions? Is maybe top 2 or 3 criteria that you would like to talk about?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one is obviously, as everybody has highlighted, I mean, when it comes to observability and AI ops, obviously, it has to be much closer to where the workloads are running, correct? So you can't send on-premise data to on-premise, to a SaaS observability solution, correct? So idea is that you collect the data at wherever the workloads are running. If it's on-premise, you use something as an on-premise collection and observability and AI ops layer. If it's data in cloud, you can potentially use a cloud-based observability solutions also and AI solutions also. So both the models are there. I mean, and if you look from a security perspective, I mean, one of the important aspects what we also see, and with so much threats increasing, is that security has to be followed at a design level, correct? So it has to be like anything which you are building, whatever observability and AI solutions and all. It has to follow those secure software development guidelines, which are prescribed by these agencies like NIST and followed by almost every authority, be it India or be it any other countries and all, correct? So while you keep on, you're getting solution certified as per the ISO guidelines, as per the NIST guidelines, but it has to be followed at the design level in designing the solutions and all. And the next thing, which quickly I'll tell you, is that the threats keeps on evolving, correct? So the solutions which are getting developed, which are used by organizations, to definitely have a kind of a software bill of material available. What is code which you're using, what components you're using in building that solutions and all, so that if there are any threats and possible issues which are detected, which will continue to get detected, correct? Or which will continue to come with security becoming more and more sophisticated. So we can quickly fix and remediate that. So, and that is, I think I've seen now RBI has also come up with the guidelines with every vendor has to provide SBOM also, correct? So, so those are the things which I would say.
Yeah. And Neeraj, you when you were speaking about the challenges, addressing the challenges that others spoke about, and how SolarWinds observability and AI ops are built to extend the visibility and insights across, cloud native as well as on-prem and hybrid tech stacks. We talked about all this to drive visibility insights, but how, and you briefly touched upon, leveraging automation on top of it to drive remediations, for autonomous IT ops. If you can just briefly talk about, the automation part, how the automation layer on top of everything helps?
Yeah, so that's where the whole AI, ML, and all the GenAI things comes into picture. You can basically automate everything. You want to automate event correlation. You want to automate anomaly detection. You want to automate root cause analysis and root cause assistance, where AI can help you assist what are the things which are potentially going wrong. It's not like a single thing typically goes wrong. I mean, there are a bunch of things which actually causes some issues. So what are those things based on those entity relationships and topology relationships and all, correct? And then typically, one thing I typically tell in GenAI is that in IT operations, you need obviously some sort of a confidence. You can't have a randomness because you are dealing with a complex IT operations and all. So you need to have some sort of a root cause assistance, maybe matching issues to a relevant runbooks and automation workflows which can run and all. And you should have that with some level of confidence and all. And obviously, there are a bunch of GenAI capabilities which can be definitely used. For example, assist with like ticket summarization, things like matching to relevant runbooks, where you give an operations guy issue, okay, look at that. If it matches correctly, confidence is high, then there can be a feedback also which the person can give, and next time the AI learns that and uses that, correct? So these are the things which I would say from an overall automation perspective. I'm just keeping it short in interest of time. So.
Great, thanks. So for all the CIO panelists, what do you see as the biggest opportunities for hyper automation in your IT operations, and how do you see these align with the initiatives, these initiatives with the business scalability goals? So any one of you would like to take up the what do you see as the biggest opportunities for hyper automation? Because in your previous answers, I did hear that how you are right now looking at hyper automation as the next stage. So, Gaurav, Yagnesh, and Rushikant, if you would like to just very briefly touch upon this.
BFSI point of view, if I want to say opportunity, I guess automation in compliance and regulatory reporting. That's the first thing, I guess. Still, most of the players, especially during the yearly and RBI audit, end up consuming a lot of time and end up getting a lot of data manually, and they have to club and match. That's, I guess, the first use case where is still a scope of improvement of hyper automation. I guess RCA is the second thing. Some of the have already started doing in bits and pieces, but still we are not able to get that actual RCA. It's still in the nascent stage. RCA can be of any application. And maybe last but not the least, because we people are talking about the orchestration of API. These days, everything and anything has to be get out of APIs, right? So hyper automation of configuring the API, because when it comes to the API, those are readily available. You have to just plug and play. But then again, configuration integration is a time consuming. If I end up getting that, some sort of API next or API gateway, which will have that hyper automation flavor, my time to market will further reduce. So regulatory compliance or something with API, and of course RCA. These are the three use cases, I guess, BFSI, where I feel that hyper automation should be a key.
Gaurav and Yagnesh, where do you see the biggest opportunities for hyper automation in IT operations?
Hyper
Maybe one by
automation.
one, Yagnesh.
Okay. Yeah, hyper automation, I see benefit is if my mean time to detect issue, and if possible, self-healing remediation, if possible, wherever possible, and if not, it's pinpoint where exactly the problem is, which help my downtime or issue time, mean time reduce, is a good use case for me for hyper automation. And that's the thing which I expect in future that vendors may help us.
Great, thank you. Gaurav, your take.
Okay, so for us, again, the same, we use a lot of AI, but for us, the biggest advantage would be improved efficiency in resolving customer issues and proactively predicting them. So we can automate, we do automate, but we can automate a lot more on the response mechanism. We can, if prevent something to happen, I think that again would be a huge cost saving for us. So these are the places. Incident resolution and all, we anyway have some things, and GenAI based implementations of AI agentic workflows. RCAs, anyway, we are using AI agentic workflows. So this is already deployed in our case, but I believe more machines coming in to help resolve things rather than humans doing it does help us in terms of cost saving and in predicting downtimes and outcomes. So I think these are the things which we are doing right now, if you ask me.
So we are on top of time. So I would just like to wrap up with one last closing remarks from all of you. But before that, for the delegates who are watching this webinar, I have received one question so far. But if you have more questions, please drop them in the next 1 or 2 minutes, because we will be wrapping up this conversation soon. So when we wrap up, I think GenAI is the perfect topic to bring up at this moment, though we did touch upon that before. So for Gaurav, Rushikant, and Yagnesh, of course, GenAI capabilities are transforming productivity, resolution management, and within AI ops, IT ops. What is that one thing that you see GenAI resolving, or that one key ask that GenAI can help resolve?
I guess there was one limitation of AI if I have certain bias in the model, my entire output goes for a toss. With the help of GenAI, I guess if I can get rid of that biasness in the machine learning model, I think this is applicable for all the use case of AI. That will be nothing like, I guess. So instead of adding new use case, I'll more prefer if I can get that bias-free model with the help of GenAI. I guess
So
that is nothing.
refine the existing use case further. That's
Correct.
interesting. Yagnesh, what is that one limitation of AI that you think GenAI can overcome in IT ops?
So my view, GenAI being used by individual to make their things simpler is fine. But as an organization level approach, we have to be more cautious because of the biasness, and which may result in some regulatory or some wrong decision can cause a serious issue on that.
Yeah. Gaurav, you already mentioned that you're using GenAI to some extent within your IT operations. What is the next thing that you're looking at in terms of where GenAI you think can bring about maximum benefit?
So if you ask me, a lot of AI agentic workflows we are using, but I think they are becoming smarter and smarter as we speak. And I believe we need to be able to predict stuff much better in terms of incidents, in terms of what a user wants in recommendations, in queries to help them solve their issues, right? Support. So there is a lot of predictions which can. So what does human mind do? Human mind predicts what is going to happen next, right? So that is something which I'm looking forward to. Obviously there were predictive algorithms earlier available, but the way transformer-based GenAI algorithms do about, I strongly believe that they will do a much better job in terms of what used to be there earlier. Like what Rushikant said, the earlier algorithms had bias issue, but Gen AI, which runs on a very vast amount of data and vast amount of layers, can reduce a lot of biasness, or we can train it to solve for it. So I think I'm looking forward to more intelligence being embedded in these AI agentic workflows with cost-effective hardware to take up a lot of redundant work, which we humans tend to do.
Yeah. And Neeraj, you have the last word. A lot of innovations are already happening in the area of IT operations, already leveraging AI ML to a great extent for streamlining and making the IT operations more efficient. What else can GenAI do? How do you see it helping IT operations and teams? What is the next big thing that you expect it to do?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, see, the AI/ML is not something new, which has been there in existence for a couple of years, correct? I mean, we have been using AI/ML to understand root causes, understand issues, do those models, recommendations, insights, and all of those things and all, correct? But it has always been algorithms based. Okay, you define something, you feed it the data, and you get the output out of it. And it always involved some sort of a statistical analysis, rules-based analysis, and feeding in some information to get output and all, correct? Now, with advent of Gen AI and obviously with all these large language models in place and all, with a lot of data, a lot of trained models available, which can be leveraged, obviously, where you don't even need to refine rules. You give it a large set of data and let it come up with anomalies, let it come up with root causes, let it come up with relationships between a couple of metrics and events and all of those things, correct? So that's where things are moving, where eventually we ask the AI engine, and it actually, I mean, when issue happens, it's obviously root cause and you fix up that, right? But idea is that how those models can predict things, understand relationships and all, without us feeding a lot of input. Just give the data and let it come up with insights and recommendations and suggested actions so that we can actually work toward optimizing these things. And some of those aspects definitely we as a company are working on.
Great. And as we see the GenAI algorithms, evolving further, of course, we will expect more innovations happening in terms of its impact on IT operations. We have two questions that have come up. So, very quickly, I know we are already 11 minutes over time, but very quickly, if you would like to address at least one question. It's from Yash Baroth. He says that there are many solutions tools available that are utilized in AI ops. What primary or key thing we should consider before choosing the right tool? I think we did touch upon that, but very quickly, if you, Neeraj or anyone, if you'd like to just take it up.
Yeah, I mean, I would keep it very simple. If it helps you quickly detect and diagnose and help you remediate that. And then the next question is that if it helps in the predicting and helping you optimizing. I mean, that's the mantra I would keep actually correct. So I mean, the algorithm and the AI models and the AI ops are as good as if it helps in your use case. That's what we'll focus on today.
Yeah. The next question, I'm not too sure if that is something which would be very relevant here, which is, I mean, relevant in general, but from a observability point of view, there might be some relevance here. It is, how do the GDPR or DP Act impact the legal responsibilities of course, any Indian domestic business hosting personal data on cloud platforms, and particularly concerning data residency, cross-border data transfers? In that case, can we take help of AI ML to implement governance and compliance? Or this is very broad-based question, but are there any implications from an observability, the cloud-based observability standpoint?
So I would comment, Shipra, we host all our data in India. Even if there is a hyperscaler, the hyperscaler data centers are India bound. So there is nothing which goes outside India. Secondly, all the data right now we didn't have DPDP implemented. It's not being enabled right now. But all our data, whichever either hyperscaler or on-prem, are DPDP compliant. So basically, what we expect is, or GDPR, that user has an access to its own data. User knows the data is being used where he has given a consent, and he can delete the data if he wishes to not being used by anybody else. So that is what we all do, and proactively do it. Secondly, I think one issue which people would find having a problem with their data is, a lot of times we use users' data, everybody, including OpenAI and things like that, to create a model out of it, right? AI models, a GenAI model and things like that. So that is an anonymized token which gets created by looking at the patterns. And across board, this happens. That is something which is a gray area, which we really cannot help. Let's say we got a lot of logs and traces, and we built an AI model for incident detection and prediction and things like that. Now that's just a model. It's not having a PII data, but then that data is a gray area because that model was creating using some data from somebody else. In my belief, it's like, let's say we all have studied books which is pre-written by somebody else, right? And we came up and built our thoughts using that, right? Now, everybody cannot say that because you read a book, the copyright of your thought belongs to somebody else. This is what AI does, right? You learn from a user behavior. Doesn't mean that the copyright or the tokens which got generated in AI belongs to somebody else, right? So that's a little bit gray area. My belief is the tokens, which is an output of learning a user behavior, still it's the same case as you learn a book, historical book, and then bring your own thoughts and build your own ways of working. It's your own. That's the boundary case of an AI. Otherwise, very specific PII user data, either hyperscaler or on-prem, is all India based.
So, Neeraj, that's why I'm saying this is a very broad-based question about compliance in general. But do you think any of this impacts from the point of view of observability on cloud or on-prem? Does it have any impact on that?
No, I mean, we obviously have to comply with the guidelines, correct? So definitely, I mean, whatever the guidelines are there, like if the data has to be reside in India, that's perfectly fine. You can have the observability and AIOps solutions present in India. You can deploy as a platform of your choice, either in your data center or in your private clouds and all of those things and all. Or if you are okay to deploy in public cloud, straight out of India, we anyway have rigors in India, so that should be fine. So ultimately, these has to comply to the regulations and all. Now, if you look in observability, I mean, there is no PII data collected, correct? It's all telemetry data. I mean, until you send PII data, then you are collecting. So you have complete flexibility that you don't collect PII data, and those data are also not required also to understand Susan. Even if when you are collecting user experience data, you can anonymize those stuff and all. So you have a flexibility what data you want to send, what data you want to skip. So there is a complete flexibility on that.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone. I know we have gone ahead with another 15 minutes, but I hope the conversation was worth the time extended. And I would personally like to thank Gaurav, Yagnesh, and Rushikant for your time to spend here answering the questions and letting us more insights into how you're looking at observability within your IT environments. And thanks, Neeraj, for answering some of the challenges and, of course, what SolarWinds is doing, and to all our delegates for spending time today here with us. And from my side, I think when we are talking of the hybrid and IT environment, the first thing that comes to mind is complexity, security, and what we spoke about today, and visibility, of course. And what we spoke about today gives an answer to a lot of these questions, and how technologies such as AI, hyperautomation, now including GenAI, can help in providing better visibility, greater efficiency, and performance. So thank you so much. We will have a feedback form that will come up on your screen as you log out of the session. I request you all, please, to fill up that feedback form. That will really help us to improve further. And with that, thank you so much and have a great weekend ahead.